And the government has defended the deployment of Kenya Defence Forces during the June 2024 Gen Z protests, insisting the move was lawful and necessary to restore order. Defence Cabinet Secretary, that is Soipan Tuya, who appeared before the Senate, maintained that KDF acted within the provisions of Article 238 of the Constitution and KDF Act, which mandates strict adherence to the rule of law in matters of national security.
The government is standing firm on its decision to deploy the Kenya Defence Forces during the June 2024 Gen Z protest, dismissing claims that the move was unconstitutional.
Participation in internal security operations. These are carefully guided by the Constitution and the KDF Act, which specify notifications through Gazette notice, authorization to be sought prior to the deployment, and the mandatory reports to be furnished to the National Assembly, and of course, close collaboration and cooperation with the necessary security institutions.
Battalion was deployed to deal with the cases on the streets in July. I think, Mr. Speaker, that question was the issue of Gazette notice. It's either just to say the Gazette notice has been lifted or it is still in force.
Defence Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya, who appeared before the Senate, argued that deployment was in compliance with Article 238 of the Constitution.
On the question on whether the deployment has been revoked, no, the deployment has not been revoked. There is a matter actively in court, but I would also want us to again remember that the deployment of June 25th is in support of the National Police Service.
The presence of the military personnel in the streets during the protest drew sharp reactions from the civil society and a section of political leaders, with many questioning whether the move signaled increase in militarization of civilian affairs.
What self-propelling mechanism has the National Security Council put in place to ensure that once they are deployed, they do not roll into taking over government?
We have the highest respect for our defense forces as a nation, and the discipline and the respect, we admire them. But what we wanted to know, in fact, the question is not on their primary duties, which is the territorial protection of this nation. The question always arises on their secondary duties, which is, getting into civilian mix.
According to the CS, all military interventions do undergo strict scrutiny by the National Security Council to ensure they are neither arbitrary nor exceed their intended scope.
Of course, of keen interest is the deployment of June 25th, which again falls under Article 2413B, where KDF was deployed to offer support to the National Police Service to deal with the unrest that the country went through at that point.
These are senators' call for similar deployments in areas facing hate and insecurity. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence has launched investigations into reports of armed invasions in Kiunga, Lamu County.
On 13th of March 2025, a heavily armed militia, believed to be Al-Shabaab, invaded a village in Mangai in Kiunga, a village in Mangai in Basuba ward in Lamu County, and that they were in pursuit of our area chief and NPR, who helps in maintaining law and order in that area.
Additionally, CS Tuya told senators the government is cracking down on fraudsters, posing as senior military officers and defrauding Kenyans during KDF recruitments. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mongai.